back to more on this, the United Airlines passenger. So if you're on hold to talk about that, please hold on the line. We're going to get to that in just a couple of minutes. Right now, I want to welcome in my guest, and he is Bill Watkins from the Independent Institute, and of course, he is a journalist as well, and he's a lawyer as well. And Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be with you today.
I have a question for you. I see that you went to both Clemson University and the University of South Carolina. Now, one of my first jobs was down there in Greenville, South Carolina at WYFF-TV. Who in the world do you root for during football season?
Man, my blood runneth orange.
I see.
Student loans from Clemson, so they showed me love.
I understand. I had to ask. I didn't know where you fell on that one. Anyway, welcome into the program. Bill's got a new book out called Crossroads For Liberty: Recovering the Anti-Federalist Values of America's First Constitution. I thought it was a fascinating subject because very often we talk about what did the founders intend for this country to look like, and that's kind of what you get at in this book.
And that's right. In the book, we try to show that the founders of our country, with our first national constitution, the Articles of Confederation, got a whole lot right. Too many people discount the Articles as impotent, a failure. We could have never survived under them. But I take a fresh look at this. I look at how the Articles were structured and the great successes they had, such as the defeat of Great Britain, the securing of self-government in the individual states, and argue in the mess we're in today that we can learn a lot from the provisions of the Articles.
Right, such as I'm imagining a much smaller and less powerful central government, right?
That's one facet of it. For example, I think it's critical that we see in the Articles that the national government didn't have the power, the Confederation Congress did not have the power to directly act upon individuals. The states served as mediators, if you will, between the people and the government of the center. And that was a great protection for the people's liberties rather than being forced to deal with all these federal officers and lawmakers and tax collectors and such. They dealt with their own state officials instead, and it's easier to monitor those officials, to remonstrate if needed. It was a better system for the liberty of the individual.
So if I'm following you there, though, for example, what would that mean for immigration today? You'd have 50 different states with 50 different immigration policies?
Not necessarily. You certainly have certain matters were delegated to the Confederation Congress, just like under our national government today. There were certain national concerns like declarations of war that could only be made in Congress assembled, granted by a two-thirds majority for important decisions, but those were specifically defined, and the states had the authority more so than today to buck up against the national government, if you will, and bring it back into line.
Well, I know that there's always that debate when we're discussing Neil Gorsuch in the past couple of weeks over whether we have an originalist on the court or someone more in the line of Elena Kagan or some of the other justices who see this as a living, breathing document. Your book can kind of, I imagine, help people put that in perspective with what was originally intended and why much of it is still germane today and doesn't need to be changed.
We try to show in the book that when we talk about original intent, very often we're tempted to glorify the Federalists, Madison, Hamilton, and Jay to a lesser extent in the Federalist Papers and other fellow travelers with them, when we ignore the Anti-Federalists and how the Anti-Federalists over and over pointed out areas where the new Constitution would fail, how national power would be certain to expand, provisions that were certain to be abused. And if you honestly just weigh their writings in the scale with the Federalists, more often than not, the Anti-Federalists got it right, and Madison and Hamilton and their cohorts got it wrong.
That's a great point. Well, the book is called Crossroads for Liberty: Recovering the Anti-Federalist Values of America's First Constitution. Bill Watkins is the author, and of course I'm sure you can find it on Amazon and a lot of other booksellers right now, correct?
That's right. It's on Amazon, everywhere else. Also, www.independent.org. That's the Independent Institute. Probably get your best price there.
Yeah, they have their own bookstore there at the Independent Institute, so we'll check that out. Bill Watkins, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, great to be with you today.
Go Tigers.
Thanks.
All right, I'll see you. Thank you. All right. Interesting. I'm fascinated by this subject, so I'm going to have to look into that book a little more because I think there are a lot of answers there that kind of get overlooked, in my opinion.